now as well.
Okay.
Attendees are 2, 3, 4.
Do you
Can
have
you all
Hillary?
see the attendee list as it pops up?
Sure.
Okay,
I'm not seeing it.
you're not? So if you go to the, I'm assuming you have a screen similar to what I get. If you
I see
make
it.
that little bar pop up and you can see that one of your options is participants. And if you
Right.
click on that,
Okay.
it gives you attendees and panelists.
Yeah.
Panelists are you, attendees are the public.
Okay, now I see it. Thank you.
Do you have Hillary's contact? Maybe we should text her because it doesn't look like she's getting in.
Yeah, we definitely need her. We have to have,
A quorum.
well, Sonia is here, so we have a
Sonia.
quorum, but our chair is obviously trying to get in, so we'll wait for her.
Hi, everybody.
I'll email
Hi,
her.
Sonia.
Is having technical difficulties.
Yeah, we have 13 attendees. So-
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the issues is that her mic is muted. Hillary, if you can hear us, try to unmute yourself. At least you could talk.
Can
Oh.
you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear you now. Okay.
Can you see me?
No.
no,
That's weird. All right, let's see if I can fix that.
There you are.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I have a question for you procedurally. When the property owner and applicant wants to speak, do you want me to upgrade them to panelists so you can see and hear them, or is it okay just to have audio?
If we can see them, it'd be nice.
Okay, it just takes a few steps. You have to
Ryan.
be patient with me as I maneuver all this stuff.
You know, we have 22 participants.
Okay,
This is
yeah.
Amazing.
I have
parking order
17.
is fine. And sorry, I'm in my.
Oh,
meeting
maybe
right now.
participants include us.
No worries.
Correct.
And just walk to the
Yeah.
right of the driveway and see the cottage.
Someone's
I'll tell Joe and Roxanne that you're here.
I
and
think
have
it's
them
Hillary.
retrieve it.
talking.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Hold
we
on
are
one sec, I'm
getting
sorry.
it, But do you want to wait a minute and see if Rich turns up, or shall we start?
So Roxanne, Ryan's here. He's parked. He's walking to the cottage. Can you go down?
Time to mute her.
Thanks.
Do you want, do you want to email Rich or I could?
I can email him.
I know we wanted it at 5 o'clock. I don't know about that.
Okay.
I think this happened last time too. And didn't we end up calling him on his work
Yeah.
phone?
Yeah.
Let me see if I have that number still.
That's
You
interesting.
just sent back link.
Yeah.
I only
Oh,
have
he
his
needs the
home
link?
phone.
Well, that's interesting.
I'll call Rich.
I'm going to send him the link. Well, tell him to go to the website and get the link off the agenda, and then
Okay.
I will upgrade him to a panelist.
Okay.
I did send the link. He must not have saved it where he could find it again.
Google Zoom.
I have a special folder for Zoom meetings, dates.
Jerry Halan is present. I'm promoting her to panelist so she can be more easily accessible. Hasn't popped up yet.
Rich, this is Hillary Culhane from the Heritage Board, and we're starting our meeting now. It's Thursday, 6:06 p.m. And I think you can get the Zoom link off the agenda, either on the website or from Kristen's email. So if you get this voicemail, could you log in? Okay, thanks, bye.
He may have been trying to get in through the website. I don't know why I'm having trouble with promoting Jerry to a panelist. It just is not doing it. There she comes. Okay.
Okay.
Start video.
I don't see
There we
Rich
go.
coming up here.
Wait.
Online, yes. Sorry, we have a lot of people in the audience who are watching this.
Is there any idea when we'll be back in person, or is it we're just sort of on wait and see?
We're still on a wait and see with the whole new Omicron variant kind of running rampant right now. A lot of the
Yeah.
schools are having difficulty staying open. It's impacting so much of the student body and the teachers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll see. We're following the directives of the county of Marin, and they're setting sort of the standard everybody follows. And when they
Right.
start going back, then I guess the other cities will eventually as well.
Mhm.
Why don't we go
Yeah.
ahead and start, Hillary?
Okay, so I guess we are ready for our meeting today, Thursday, January 13th, 2022. Do we start with public comment, or do you want to do your staff report first?
And Rich is still trying to get in. Let's do a roll call. Hang on.
Okay.
Kristen, can you send him a Zoom link again?
I don't want to mess with Zoom in the middle of a meeting. I could lose you all.
I will try to forward mine to him.
That'd be fine. Then I'll just change his name. I don't have the link I sent you all handy right now.
I
Okay,
do.
I'm sorry. So we need to do a roll call.
Okay.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
going to go in order of the agenda. Vice Chair Gallant,
Present.
Chair Hillary Culhane,
Present.
Member Carol Goldberg,
Present.
Lilia Langto,
Present.
and let the record show that Richard Storick is absent but is attempting to attend. All right. So public comment.
Is there anyone in the 19 or so online people who have something to say that's outside of the agenda, or something other than that's other than the public hearing item?
So I have two hands up. If they are meant to be for public comment, not on, for an item not on this agenda, keep your hand up. If you mean to be raising your hand because you want to comment on the item that is on the agenda, please take it down. We haven't started that yet. Okay, I'm gonna allow David Svengros to speak.
Hi, can
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
He's muted for some reason.
I know, I don't know how I did that.
There, okay.
How's that? Can you hear me?
That's better.
Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello,
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. My name is David Swingross. I live at 8 Loma Vista here in Larkspur. We've been going through the process of building permits and getting our house ready for a big project, hopefully starting on February 14th. One of the things that we need to do, and we're happy to do, is get sprinklers throughout the entire house. One of the things about 8 Loma Vista is that it's a historic house in Larkspur, rated a B, I guess a high B. And so we are restricted from doing anything with the front of the house, but relatively open to do things in the back. And that's great with us. We love historic homes. As we're going through the process, and really, I'm just asking for ideas. And if anybody's got any ideas for me, given this is kind of your forte, is that we are putting sprinklers in the house. And I'm having people come over and bid for the sprinkling. And what they're telling me is that I need to, we have to have sprinklers in the old house that we're not touching, and then in the new section. In the new section, it's not a big deal because it's going to be open. But in the older section, we have this plaster from 1936 that's really beautiful. And to a person that I've had come through, they're saying that I need to put a 12 to 18 inch kind of road through the plaster all the way through the house, through the bedrooms and the hallways and all the way along, in order to put sprinklers in. And the other way to do it is to put a 1 inch pipe running on the front of the house that you could, it's plain to see. And I'm just wondering if there's, and we're advocates for sprinklers, but I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to avoid having to put and tear out the plaster in the house. It's not the expense, so to speak. It's just the fact that once you tear apart the plaster and try and patch it, it'll never look the same. And I've tried the patch plaster, and I'm just worried that I'm going to have this 18-inch road all the way through my house. And so if anybody on this committee knows of, perhaps somebody who could put sprinklers in without tearing apart plaster, or if there's an appeal process where you can say, given that this house is a historic house, we don't want to tear apart this historic plaster, I'd appreciate it.
David, the plaster is on the inside, correct?
Yes.
Jerry, are they eligible for some kind of exemption under the historic building code?
Now, that was flashing through my mind, but I don't think there is for the interior. There are occasions when the fire chief will allow, just sprinklers over the windows instead of throughout the whole house to take care of some fire resistance. I would kind of recommend opening some kind of a conversation with me and the fire chief, and giving me an opportunity to quickly glance through the historic building code. But in general, we don't get involved so much with the interiors. And I was also going to say a 1 inch pipe on the outside of the house is probably not that disruptive, if that's all it is, if it's the choice between the two.
Yeah.
Or if
I agree with you about the 1 inch pipe. It's not terrible, but it is something.
No, it's not great. It's not great. You could put it in some kind of a stucco, encasing or something like that to make it less obvious. But I do appreciate the plaster issue. I have real plaster in my house too, and it is hard to patch.
All right. Well, thank you. And what I'll do is I'll put together an email, and I'll just reiterate my challenge here and copy you and Ruben, and perhaps there's a solution.
So David, just so you know, Jerry is a contract.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that would be applied to your building permit costs.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, though.
Mhm.
All right, I'm
Well,
back.
thank you. I mean, that's kind of what we're here for, in a
Yeah.
way,
So
to address these questions.
I would love to stay for the whole meeting, but I've got to make chili. Gotta go.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay.
And wait, we
Any
have
other
one more
comments?
person with their hand up. Fran Capoletti, you've been allowed to talk.
Oh, Fran. Hi, Fran.
Hey, Fran, how are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yes.
do.
Yes.
We can.
I just wanted to say it's been a while, a long time I've been away. For those that don't know me, I was on the commission for a relatively short time and lived in Marin for a time, still active in history over in Ross Valley, other parts of Ross Valley, I should say, as well as in the East Bay. And I just really want to say it's great to see those of you I know and other faces I don't know. I think it's a lot of work you take on, and I just really respect that. And when I first moved to Larkspur, it got me interested in history. It's a special place. So wanted to express that and send my greetings as well. Jerry is someone over in the East Bay. I've known her work very well and just wanted to express that up front without it being a particular item. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran.
I hope
It's nice to hear from you, Fran.
By the way, Fran sent me the copy of a piece he's just written about a historic fountain in Ross, which is beautifully written. And I'll post it to everyone after this because it's really worth learning about.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Just for the record, because we now have a minutes clerk, let the record show that Mr. Stork did enter the meeting at 6:12 p.m.
Great. So is that it for public comment or any
It
more
looks
hands
like it.
raised?
I don't see any more hands.
Okay. Well, then I guess it's time for the planning staff's oral report.
Well, very briefly, I was informing some of the other board members just casually as we were waiting to start. We do have an interim planning director on staff right now who's in office 2 days a week and in communication with me through emails and Zoom meetings other days. His name is Daniel Hortert. He works for Four Leaf Consulting Services. He will be assisting primarily with the city manager's oversight on housing matters related to all the new Senate bills that keep coming through from the state of California. The latest is SB 9 that he is working on a checklist for, which would allow which would ease the way for more residential construction on single family lots. So you could raise the density on your single family lot to 2 units. And
Kristen, what
also
is Daniel-
allow ministerial subdivisions of lots.
What is Daniel's last name, please?
Hortert, Hortert.
Thank you.
Mhm. So he and I have been working on a checklist for that, in case we do receive future applications that want to comply with the standards of SB 9. We have adopted he drafted in with Neil's assistance before he left, a new municipal code chapter that will deal with this. It's been adopted as an urgency ordinance, and in the next council meeting, I believe they will adopt it for an additional 11 months or so, however the language works in the urgency ordinance provisions. And that will give us time to decide how to adopt a permanent chapter that will forever deal with these kinds of things. It's anticipated they won't be rescinding it. So.
Do you see
also-
any effect on historic properties? Is it something
No, actually, historic properties, they aren't allowed to propose the subdivisions in the second homes under SB 9 for historic properties.
we?
I'm assuming that means residential as well as the downtown commercial district. But a lot of answers aren't quite that clear yet. The language of this regulation from the state is a little bit hard to understand. They don't write them the way we do in plannings to sort of chronologically order it so you can really follow. You have to sort of read it very carefully. So we're working on that, trying to boil it down to the basic points that we need to make sure are in our code to be in compliance. The other, in the good news I have is that we have also a contract planner on staff now. His name is Daniel as well. So we have Daniel Schwartz, Daniel Hortert, and Daniel B. And I just met him, so I think it's Bremen. But he will be taking over some of my projects that are not historic properties and assisting me in the daily activities in the house until we can hopefully hire a permanent full-time planner, which has proven to be very difficult these days, as everybody has been experiencing staff shortages and difficulty in attracting new staff. So there's a lot of competition out there for people. So those are the things we're dealing with at the time. There's a lot going on a daily basis, but nothing more I think I need to tell you about. I hope that you all attended the council discussions on the future of City Hall and the possibility of moving the city services over to our community facilities parcel on Doherty. They're continuing to pursue the possibility of building a new building on that site, along with some residential housing, because there's so much state law that's sort of mandating we do this. So we may have a mixed use development there in the future, both city services and residential housing. So we will see. That's very up in the air. I don't want anybody in the audience to panic. This is all very preliminary, what exactly is going to happen there. But you should be watching the council agendas if you want to keep track of that and see how we are progressing.
Is there a timeline, Kristen, on
I'm not sure.
needs to be made?
I have not received a recent update on that. I will ask. So during our next meeting, I can provide you with more information.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
that's it.
All right. Well, then it looks like there's just one item on our public hearing list, which is 20 Monte Vista. So Carol, you were here last time, as were Rich and I. Lelia, I'm sure you've had a chance to go over the packet, so you're familiar with it.
Yes.
Kristen, do you need to give an update staff report on this?
Just very briefly for the audience, we have a lot of people here. This was heard previously in October. It was October 26th. Is that correct? The days are going by so fast.
Eight is what I had. but-
28.
28. And the board at that time continued the application to allow us to, and the applicant to put together some additional information regarding this building, its current condition, and get some more information from our historic architect to ensure that the building is one that should be just removed from the inventory. So in the time period since we met last, the applicant did have their historic consultant update her report, which I provided to you. We had Jerry Holland watch your meeting and respond to your questions, and those were attached to the staff report in her letter.
Yeah.
And the applicant has also been very clear that they understand that the condition of the building is not necessarily the reason for removal, and has withdrawn their proposal that it should be removed partly due to its
Okay.
older condition. They understand older buildings can be upgraded and repaired. So that's really not the purpose of requesting this. The purpose is primarily that it's been determined that the building does not qualify in terms of our point scoring for inclusion on the inventory, and should be removed so they're not held to the historic standards. So at that point, our first order of business would be to ask if the applicant or property owner would like to speak. So I have Jared Polsky raising his hand. I'm going to allow him to talk.
Well, thank you, Kristen. First of all, I want to thank Kristen for a very thorough and helpful staff report. I want to thank Jerry Halan for her staff report. Her report was very.
Jared, don't panic. You're coming back. I upgraded you to panelist so you can be seen.
We're all sitting in my office. I don't know if you can see me. But
We can see you.
you can see, okay, good. Again, I want to thank everybody for their good work. Jerry's report seemed to be spelled out very clearly that it is not, as we freely admit, it's not about the condition of the home. It's about the scoring and the technical, oh, there it is, the reevaluation scoring. I think Jerry makes the case very succinctly and very clearly that it just doesn't rise to the level of a house that needs to be preserved. It doesn't, it is a deserving of its delisting. We also send in a number of letters of support, neighbors who've taken a look at the house and have sent in emails and letters supporting our request for delisting. And I don't really have much more to say because I think it's been so well explained by Jerry why it doesn't rise to that level. We are here, Spencer and Susie Doyle are here with me and Elizabeth Rahr, my project architect. And Stacey DeShazo is online if needed to answer any questions that she might presented to her.
Do any of the board members have questions of the applicants?
No.
No.
Okay. Then I'm going to change them back to where are you? I'm going to change them back to a attendee. There we go. All right. This is the problem with doing this, is it does take me a minute to go back and forth.
We're with you, Kristen.
Okay, I've changed the role back to attendee. So are there, at this point, if you have no questions of the applicant and you don't have any further questions of their representative, Stacey DeShazo, their historian, we should open the hearing to the public and ask if anyone would like to speak. Okay, Riley Newman, I've allowed you to talk. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Riley. My wife, Alex, and I live across the street from Spencer and Susie. We're new to the neighborhood. We've been here for about a year, but we're multi-generational Marinites. My mom's a city planner who I'm sure you guys have worked with. She's been on various boards of historical societies here in Bryn. So it's definitely something that we, value. But we just want to say that we really support Spencer and Susie in this process. We look forward to, what they're proposing to build, and we think it'll be a great addition to the neighborhood.
Okay. I'm gonna remove them from permission to talk and then going to Karen. Karen, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name.
It's okay. This is Karen Jishi. We are at 15 Monte Vista Avenue. So we are catty corner to Spencer and Susie. And they have also shared their plans with us, and we're very excited about their plans, and we support any decision that the board may make to delist them.
Okay. I'm going to remove permission to talk and go to Riley. Riley, could you lower your hand unless you want to speak again? We're going to go to phone number 415-241-1402. You appear to be, there we go.
James Holmes, Larkspur, Heritage Board member a long time ago. Despite all the documentation generated in this matter, the difference between demolition and preservation of the currently listed resource comes down to a difference of 20 points on 3 items between the evaluations of the initial evaluator and the current evaluation. The board correctly asked for a second explanation or for an explanation, and which was provided, but having read it, I think the original evaluation got it correct, and I'd like to explain why. But before I do, though, I'd like to say that there was one survey item that seems to have been missed by everybody, and that is builder. That's one of the items on the survey, and there were no points given here. But presumably because people didn't know who it was. But all of the narrative documentation and description notes the distinctive vertical wooden vents in both gables. And according to Larkspur past and present, page 51, that is characterized as a, quote, trademark, unquote, of a local builder, William Wegner, who built a number of homes, not only built a number of homes in this area, but also was a key volunteer fireman and Rose Bowl builder and building inspector. So there is at least some evidence for a, since this indicates Wegner's trademark, that there's some evidence that this could get at least the lowest score for builder, which would be 5. The second evaluation's 3 changes were 5 points lower for significance from 10 to 5, 10 points for style from the former 20 down to 10, and 5 points for individual resource from 10 to 5. Looking at the explanation test for the explanation text for historic significance, the explanation for the downgrade is that quote, the property is not in any way associated with an important person, event, or an activity. Its only claim to fame is its age. Well, however, the report of the applicant indicated that when the builder, Mr. Tosney, died, he warranted a full article in the local newspaper. Not just an editorial bit, but a full article. And so I think that's somewhat significant for local importance. It's unfortunate that that wasn't provided, but it is indicative of some local importance. Likewise, the applicant's report indicates that apparently the local press thought it was worthwhile to comment on Ms. Hirely's doings as a wartime nurse in the Naval Yard over in the East Bay. So again, she merited a press report. And the Larkspur past and present says that page 147 says that the Hireleys had established what they call what the book says is a, quote, a Larkspur record for longevity in a single home, end quote. So, I mean, while they didn't have major importance, they weren't completely beneath notice, and suggesting that the original evaluation of 10 was warranted. With regard to significance, pardon me, I'm just turning with regard to style, the evaluation says the home has no significant use of materials, no architectural features of merit, nor exhibits any kind of special craftsmanship. Well, if you compare this with the lengthy description of the features of the home in the DPR, Department of Public Resources documentation, which is attached as Exhibit A to the applicant's report, you see quite a number of features listed, even going so far as to call this finished Spanish lace. They mentioned the Wegner slats in the gable. They mentioned the square pillared porch, the divided light windows, the double bays, and other features. So it seems like, while again it is not a stellar example of style, it's not so insignificant that it warrants a downgrade based on the DPR's description. And finally, with regard to historic significance, the reference is to individual resource, and the style, the explanation says 20 Monte Vista is not a major or support. It says for supporting its 10 points. That's what it was previously given. Now it's 5 points. So 20 Monte Vista is clearly not a major or supporting resource. and the explanation goes on to say it is own a visible corner in a historic style that was popular in the Baltimore Park neighborhood. Well, gosh, that visible corner historic style that was popular in the Baltimore Park neighborhood, that seems like a good description of what would be a supporting resource, not a major, but a supporting resource. So it seems to continue to, based on the explanation itself, continues to warrant a 10. Lastly, I'd like to just step back a bit from the scoring and ask the question if this example of California bungalow shouldn't be saved, then which ones should? That sort of implies the need for a comparison with the other listed ones to see if this example is a better or a lesser examples than the other ones. And in this connection, I think the explanation on page 3, the caption, the paragraph, the dot paragraph captioned California bungalows in Baltimore Park is quite instructive. It says there are 3 others that are listed, only 3 others out of all the houses in Baltimore Park. There are 3 other California bungalows in Baltimore Park listed on the inventory. 7 other California bungalows were rejected. So the California bungalow is a diminishing resource, even though it's a signature style of a neighborhood. But since there are only 3 others, it would seem to me that the key issue would be whether this one is a better or lesser example of the others. I tend to think it's a more elaborate example because it has more of the features, the bay windows, the divided lights, the corner porch, with the French doors on it, and other things. And I think if you rift through the pages, if you flip through the pages of Larkspur Past and Present, you will actually see maybe only one other California bungalow, which could be considered more elaborate than this, and then just because of its front window. I can say for sure that this house is more elaborate than the than the Wegner house, a much plainer Wegner house, which is shown on page 154 of Larkspur Past and Present, that you gave a restoration prize to. And it would be interesting to see the text of that. But this is certainly a more elaborate example than that one. So I would say that in my view, the original evaluation was reasonable. I think the aspects of the explanation itself confirms that the rationale for the downgrade is debatable at best, and that the debate should be resolved in favor of continuing the listing. Thank you.
I'm removing permission to talk. I'm now going to Mason McMullen.
Hi, my name's,
There we
can you
go.
hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Mason McMullen. I live with my wife, Nicole McMullen, at 31 Monte Vista, across the street from the Doyles. And I just wanted to say that we agree and support with the city's recommendation to delist 20 Monte Vista from the historical registry.
Okay, thank you. And now we will go to Terry Sternberg.
Hi, this is Terry Sternberg, and I live at 8 Monte Vista. And I just want to say I strongly support the delisting of the Spencer's house from the historic relevance. So please delist it. Thank you.
I think we have another phone number here, 310. I'm allowing you to talk. It's an area code 310. Oh, yeah, 310-989-5106. You need to unmute yourself. You are muted. There
Yeah,
you go.
hi, this Justin Wesley and Nicole Wesley at 10 La Rosa Way. We fully support the city's recommendation to delist 20 Monte Vista Way from the historical registry.
Thank you. Mason McMullen, are you still attempting? I think I've already asked him to speak, right? His hand was up. Okay. Remove permission. Larry Chu, you are allowed to talk. Mr. Chu, would you like to speak? You need to unmute. There we
Thank
go.
you, Kristen. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm Madam Chair,
Or not
members
you.
of the Heritage Preservation Board. Larry Chu, 116 Alexander Avenue. I'm speaking on behalf of supporting the staff recommendation for the delisting and concur with the report from the city architect. You already have my specific comments in a letter for the record. As I went back and started reading the summary minutes from the last meeting, though, there are some comments that are relevant and many that are not in making the determination. So as a matter of process in your deliberations, I'd like to ask the board members to include in their findings the basis for your assessment in the context of how Larkspur Municipal Code 18.19.040 is written. Whether the application goes before the city council as a recommendation to delist the property or as an appeal by the applicant upon denial by the Heritage Preservation Board, from firsthand experience, the council would benefit greatly in their discussions from having a clear and rational basis on the record. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Excuse me, Larry, could you repeat the last part, what you said there? I missed part of it.
All I was saying was that regardless of whether the city council, you send a recommendation to the city council to delist the property, or whether the applicant appeals it based on a denial by the board. From my experience, the council would benefit greatly in having for their discussions, a clear and concise determination based upon the language that's inside the municipal code that I cited. They are not experts in this area. So, that's the guidance that they normally get.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Larry, I'm gonna take you off speaker. Just for clarity, the board is a recommending body and you actually can't approve or deny. What you can do is make a recommendation. So what I would do as staff is go forward with your recommendation to either remove it or not remove this home from the inventory. Okay?
And Kristen, does it go to the planning department first and then to the council, or would it go?
It goes straight to the council. The council approves based on your recommendations, the
Okay.
inventory that we have. And any future modifications.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Steve Taylor, you're allowed to talk. You have to.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to the board for your work, which is certainly important. We live at 26 Monte Vista next door to the property, and we would add our voice to the other neighbors surrounding the property, which fully support and strongly encourage the board to delist the property and follow the city's recommendation. We know a lot of work has been put into it. We know that people are taking this very seriously, but we believe that that's the right answer, and we would urge you to follow that recommendation. Thank you.
Steve, excuse me, could I ask why? What's your reason for urging delisting?
Absolutely. We know that the city has taken a close look at the property, that they were the ones that, and the architects have looked at the property. They've looked at the standards, and they've looked at the reasons why it was sort of a close call beforehand. And in making that determination, they decided that it was should have been delisted. I think they're the ones that have spent the most time looking at it, and looking at the other properties. I've been on the street for about 10 years. I knew the prior owners. Certainly, Heritage Board, you do a wonderful job of trying to keep the heritage in our community. But I also I read the report. It seemed like they did a very thorough examination of the history and the state of the property, and their conclusion seems like the right one, and I would defer to that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Andy Bogardus?
Hi, Andy Bogardus. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm at 32 Monte Vista. We've been here for over 20 years, so we're about 3 houses away. And we definitely support Susie and Spencer on their delisting of this house. Thank you.
And Fran Capoletti, your hand is still up. Did you need to speak?
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I took an interest in this neighborhood when I lived in Larkspur. It's really a great area to live. And there are things I'll say, given my perspective, of course, I love to research the history of things, but what I really notice is so many communities in the Bay Area, nobody comes to meetings, nobody speaks up, nobody does much sometimes, it feels. So it's definitely good to hear and to get that perspective from people. Very informative. But I do want to go back to some things, if I could address, just to make sure for the record. I think the research and documentation on the property, I'd like to make sure is accurate and complete as much as possible. And if I have a few minutes, I'd at least like to go over at least what I can tell you from what I know of Larkspur. The first thing is, I'm wondering why it's saying the house was built in 1924, as Larkspur past and present puts it at 1925. And we have, and I know these are kind of detailed comments, but I think they're important. I see the San Anselmo Herald reporting the building permit granted to Mr. Tosny in February of 1925. And when I look at the actual, these Sanborn maps from 24, there's no house there. So I think that's something just to at least, whatever happens, to get to be accurate. I was intrigued in reading James Holmes' comments about Wegner, because I didn't see anywhere where it comes out and says who did it, but I did find it valuable when he references page 147 and 54 of the book to show other examples by Wegner. And I think when you're trying to compare similar structures, I think that's a very good resource to look to. The other thing I thought was interesting to note in the book, Larkspur Past and Present, is about saying just how long the one family lived there. First, the father and his daughter, and then when he passed, the daughter living on there for many years. Further, I noticed that the family is actually documented as coming to Larkspur as an annual group of campers. As you know, people used to come here for vacation. As early as 1894, I have the family, when Mr. Tosny would have been a young man, spending time here and being reported in the newspapers and being active in the community. And for that reason, I'm thinking, I wonder if we're giving enough credit to what is important and who is important in Larkspur. We often wonder, there's no one important here. But I think of things that made Larkspur so important were the volunteer firemen starting the Rose Bowl and just the regular working people. Marin was a bit different back then from what it's become today, although it's still a great family place. I'd almost be tempted to raise some of the score issues about the points, but I appreciate that there was a discussion by the Jerry Holland and others to look a little more deeply and explain some of the concerns from the last meeting. I would differ on some things, and it's notable to note what's a craftsman versus California bungalow. And I hope whatever people think, it's an opportunity to be educated about the styles that are here. So as it goes, I would still want to just say, as much as possible, to just stick as close to the objectives of trying to get this scoring system. And it's not easy. But I think it's important at least to try to bring those issues up. And I would hope whatever happens, there is a way to preserve the look and feel and of these communities. It's made it a special place that could be lost. So I think that covers what I wanted to say, but I appreciate the opportunity. It's probably more than I've been able to deal with from my time earlier working with Larkspur.
Thank you, Fran.
Thanks, Fran.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? It looks like we have the property owners would like to speak. I'm going to promote them to panelists since they are the applicant. It didn't work. Mr. and Mrs. Sternberg, I've allowed you to speak.
Yeah. Hi, I was asking us to join a panelist, so I think we might have been.
Oh, I see.
But this is Jay and Lizzie Sternberg. We live at 114 Alexander. I actually grew up at 8 Monte Vista and remember going and playing in the Hireleys' backyard when I was a kid. But I think it was just appropriately noted that how important community is and how rare it is to have community getting involved in these sorts of meetings. And with respect to the report and the staff recommendation, I think the professionals have weighed in and come to the right conclusion based on the information there. And when you have a situation that isn't a clear one way or the other, you have a property that is very close. I do think the community and what's important to the community is important. With due respect to the Historical and Heritage Board and the historical nature, I think we need to look at, does this house fit in with the neighborhood in its current form and its current design? And I think that's important to evaluate as part of this. But I, along with the surrounding neighbors and community, are in support of the delisting of this house and the possibilities that create. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'm going to suggest, Chair, you bring the discussion back to the board members.
Okay, all right. Let's bring the discussion back to the board. Does anyone have any questions or points that they'd like to bring up? Is Jerry still online or still listening?
Yeah. Well, Hillary, I would like to hear from Jerry some of the distinctions between the California bungalow and the Craftsman. And I got a little confused about where this house was supposedly fitting into.
That's a good question. Is Jerry
Yeah,
there?
no, yeah, I'm
Oh,
here.
okay.
I'm here, and I think to me that was kind of maybe the shortcoming of the DeShaza report, which she did classify it as an arts and crafts bungalow or a craftsman bungalow, and they're distinct. They're very distinct. The craftsman bungalows tend to be, they kind of do have the same footprint and sometimes the same geometry, single story, smaller homes. But the California bungalows were definitely kind of the working class version of the craftsman bungalow. It was built in stucco, a lot less detail. There were many, many more of them built. I mean, probably twice as many. And so to me, a California bungalow is by its nature, its very nature, very simple and plain. And for one of these homes to stick out, it really has to, I think, have some special features or finishes or what have you. And if you did look at the DeShaza reports, the comparative examples that she used were definitely Craftsman bungalow and not California bungalows. And I didn't spend as much time as I could have, but we did briefly go back, and we do have a number of California bungalows in this neighborhood. Many of them were denied for the same reasons. We've got 3 that are listed. And I think we have a good representative examples of the style in this neighborhood and in Larkspur in general, and in the Bay Area and in California in general. I think of this as a very ubiquitous style. So it has to be something special for me to make it stand out. I was a little shocked that it made it in the first round of Go Round, that it even got 50 points the first time round. But I think the surveying process was much different then. I think there was a number of buildings were being surveyed in a very short time, and we have the luxury of just really focusing on just one building, one at a time, on a case by case. So I think we give it a lot more scrutiny now the second time round and a second evaluation. And so hopefully, Lelia, I've answered that question, but that's the difference between Craftsman and California bungalows. Simply just go stucco shingle. I mean, it's maybe not that cut and dry all the time, but.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, that helps.
I have a question for Jerry. Addressing James Holmes' question about the builder, William Wagner.
Right.
There's a couple of homes in the neighborhood that were built by him. Do you think that that should be weighted in consideration with this house, 20 Monte Vista?
You know, I will have to say I can't speak to that definitely because I'm not that familiar with the other homes. I've heard his name, but he's not a great builder. So I'd have to take a look at the individual homes to see if this is a master example of the kind of buildings that he built. When you're looking at a builder, you're looking for that kind of a master builder. Like, is this his crowning achievement, or is it just an everyday example? So if this house was, really one of his better homes, then yes, we should take a look at his authorship. But if it's not, if it's just like every other one, then I'd say no, it's not. I mean, every home has a builder. Whether they get mentioned in LPP or not is unfortunate, but I mean, that's kind of what we have as our standard here in Larkspur.
Yeah.
I just want to make a point here that the evaluation sheet I'm showing here had a typo, in the final score adjustment by Ms. Halan was 35 points.
Right.
So if the architect builder or the builder does get some credence, we still have 15 point, we need to make up 15 points to get it back to 50, where it would then qualify.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, wait, so the typo is the 40 points is not?
The 40 points is the correct score. The 35 is the incorrect score. So I've got it correct on the main column, and then I typed it in. Now, but Kristen's point is legitimate, and that is if we do give the builder and give it this particular home another 5 points for the builder, we're still only at 45, and we're not going to get to the 50.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make this point, and it was marginal to begin with. 50 was generous, I thought, and the first evaluation.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Jerry or Rich? Anyone? Okay. Well,
no, I will say, Jerry, your knowledge in this area of our history is enormous, and I just have to say that this point evaluation system is anything but scientific. It's subject to a lot of opinion, and we've seen examples where I think in the years that I've been on the board here, where I think the point system has varied widely between examples. If it's a difference of 5 points between what we can attribute now and the 50 that would keep it listed, gosh, I think that's minimal. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say, Jerry. Thank you.
And I appreciate that comment. I will say, working in other cities as well, that Larkspur is just very lucky to have such a good system, because I think it's a very scientific system compared to most other cities where you basically just have the 10 guidelines, no point system, and it's just, somebody's word. I think this is pretty precise. I've gone back to, the points over and over again, and I'm so appreciative of having the, the advantage of the points, and it's very well broken down by Dan Peterson and all his comments. And so whenever I have a doubt, and that's when I go back with these reevaluations, I go back in and I read what you're actually supposed to be scoring. And if you follow Peterson's point system pretty thoroughly, or accurately, you get to the same point system every single time. And I think if Peterson was here today and we could go through these points with him, he'd probably agree with us on most of these. And again, we have the advantage of looking at something a lot more in depth than Peterson did. He probably spent maybe an hour or two on the whole house. We've got now, 3 architects looking at it, staff people, and a whole board. So it's we're really scrutinizing it now.
Yeah, we are.
Well, Rich, a little bit in answer to that, I was around when Dan Peterson was doing this, and before that, they were just volunteers doing it. So he was 100% more scientific than just those of us walking by and coming up with some random comments, and points really help solidify which homes more value than others historically. So I do trust Dan Peterson's system as well as your astute.
Well, I'm using his system. I didn't have to, reinvent or create anything. I mean, his system is there. You go back and you read it for each category. He explains the point systems, and it's very well done. It's very thorough.
I just want to point out this home was added in the 2008 update. I gave Mr. Peterson 150 homes to evaluate at the time. So I think Jerry's comments are actually well-founded, since I worked with him directly. He did not have a lot of time to spend many hours really scrutinizing these homes. He was trying to be sure he caught the ones that seemed to stand out based on the list we gave them.
So even with that list of how many homes did he, 100 or so?
150, and we added
150.
77. We had a few on already. We have 77 total now, or 76.
Okay.
We lost
So even with, that's a little more scrutiny than, because we've spent a lot of time, as Lilia knows, canvassing these neighborhoods and going over the score sheets again for a third time. And so even with his scrutiny here, it still was a borderline house in terms of whether it's a B or a C. It's right at 50 points. Prior to now. So, I don't know where that leaves us, other than I think there's going to be a few properties that are like this, that, it's a matter of, looking at them more closely and evaluating them today, the condition, not the condition, but the.
Well, it's the merits of the building. It's not the conditions, it's the merits.
No. And I understand that. Yeah. And that's always been something that I've been really clear about. When I said condition, I meant, I'm trying to pick my words carefully, because I do feel like there's like cultural conditions on like pressure to make changes to these properties. And as a board, I think that's why we have to scrutinize these proposals and these requests very carefully to be delisted. And I didn't mean the condition of the property. I meant the condition of the desire of the owner and neighbors to maybe delist the property and make changes. So that's why I'm really glad that we're having this discussion. And it's really important that Jerry went back and really clarified, because I feel more comfortable myself understanding where this house stands. And sorry, I made a lot of vague points right there, but I definitely feel better having had Jerry explain all of this in her letter, and to be present at this meeting too has been helpful. So.
I think
And
so.
I agree with Hillary. I think that it is important to really scrutinize, especially in the case of delisting, because it's not something that as a preservationist, anybody really likes to do. We always have to fight to get them on, you know? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I'm glad that we're really going through this, and it's what we have to do. And we may end up delisting the property, but I think we'll really be sure, if that's the case, that this is where this house is going. So
I think Sonia would like to speak.
Great.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, agreed on both. And thank you, Jerry, for both your report and for clarifying tonight. It is really helpful. But I've been thinking about Rich's point about the subjectivity of, deciding on this point or that point. And one thing that I think has been a little bit difficult for this house is that it's tugging on, those of us who treasure the historic look and feel of our neighborhoods and our community, and that it's not, maybe I might score something differently based on, its significance or style not being a pristine example or masterful example, but I would maybe elevate the workhorse everydayness of the life of Larkspur that was of the 1920s, that is lost house by house. The idea that there are, so many that we can count on one hand right now that are on the list of this kind of workman style or not, architecture digest worthy. I don't know if that's like as convincing to me personally, because house by house, you're going to take down the atmosphere of that historic environment when you walk down that street, right? And then the last house then becomes the only one then that we decide is worthwhile, because then it is the only one. And I think it's just difficult. It's not to say that the scoring system isn't valid either, but that sometimes it's not picking the highlight house, but it's preserving the entire vibe of the whole place. And in that sense, it is a loss. Like if this house is delisted, there is loss, if that's what we decide to do.
Yeah.
Or if that's what the council decides to do.
Yeah.
I certainly see the point, and I think Hillary has kind of alluded to that as well. And I think when you evaluate a lot of houses, I think for somebody that looks at a lot of houses, when you see, a lot of the ordinary houses are important, but I think even within the context of ordinary, it still needs to have something. So the California bungalow style by nature is ordinary. It just by its very character, it's just, that's what it is. It's a working class style. We have working class Victorian cottages. They're a little bit older, so I give them a little bit more importance, but it is important. It is part of the life here. But is it enough to get on, a listing on as a heritage resource? Because the heritage resource is supposed to be something really special and convey something. I think a little bit more about that lifestyle. And there are a lot of other really good California bungalow examples. And I think the hard part for this one is that to me, it has a lot of integrity. It's in good shape. It hasn't lost any of its features. So it's a good example of a very, of the lowest part of the low. If you can just evaluate California bungalows A, B, and C, I'd give this one a C, but it's a really in good shape. So that's kind of, maybe a little bit why it's.
Okay, just to clarify then, if you would give it if the California bungalow is the workhorse style and is not in it of itself like special, then why does this one get a C in that category?
Because again, it doesn't have any special features. It doesn't have the, I think the siding of the gable venting vertical boards is not that highly detailed. It's not, doesn't really, any builder could have done that. The bay windows on either side, on the front and on the sides, are pretty standard features. The porch says nothing special about arrival. It just doesn't say anything. And I wish I had taken the time maybe to go and find some good examples for this presentation, and maybe that's something we should think about in the future. But I mean, I could drive through this neighborhood and give you 2 or 3 other California bungalows that are, and just easily pick out the details why this one is so much plain. There's no texture on the stucco. The shape is not that great. Like I said, the porch, the stairways, there's nothing that really says anything significant about it. And I would be looking for a few more, like maybe angled rafter tails, a more ornate gable vent, the bay windows picking up something a little bit more, dramatic. I don't know, but there's things that could have been done that would have pulled us up above the mundane.
Okay.
Jerry, I'm to hear you say that this house is in great shape. You have to remember that the impetus for this whole urge to delist the home came from the fact that this house was ready to fall down.
Well, that was from somebody else's opinion. That was from the owner's opinion and the architect.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm just talking about the process here that the owners, I'm assuming here, purchased the home when they did because it was a charming historic building, in their opinion, without looking at the point system. And they have invested improvements in this building that make it look, to me, pretty well kept. Then to see that they went out and found a contractor that said, no, it's about $1 million to make the house safe to live in. There's something wrong with that. And I have to say, I mean, the architects who are chiming in and saying, yes, this thing should be delisted. Is it not possible that those architects are going to design the new home when this is demolished and torn down?
Well, the architect I'm sure this architect is not, Richard. I have no desire to see the house torn down. I think from an environmental point of view, I don't believe in tearing down anything. But let me say this, I don't know why the owners built it, but I come from a totally different perspective. My perspective is only as a preservation architect giving advice to the city of Larkspur. Yeah. I can't speak to the $1 million rehab. I think that's a little far-fetched, but yeah, if you want to bring a building like this up to code, you could spend $1 million if you wanted to, but you don't really need to bring a building up to code. And I'm sure Jared Polsky and his project architect know this. But they want to remodel their home, and Larkspur is a very desirable neighborhood. As Hillary said, there's a lot of pressure in this neighborhood, to get more square footage. And, whether they liked the home when they bought it, or maybe it was the only thing they could afford, maybe they got a discount on the price because it did have termites, or the foundation was, broken, or whatever the problems were. But we don't look at those structural things from a preservation point of view. We only look at the architectural significance, whether it's related to any kind of important person, builder, family, style, or whatever. And I'm going to allude back to the Honeymoon Cottage, which was a total wreck when I first saw it. My God, that thing was falling into the creek. It was an old Victorian little cottage, and it was 95 points of integrity, and it didn't lose any because of its condition. And the fellow that bought it put a lot of heart and soul into it, and basically replaced everything, but had to put back everything on the facades just the way it was. And it's a charming little home now. And so I think you can fix it up. But this isn't, I don't think, it's a cute little bungalow, but I mean, I don't think it qualifies architecturally as anything. And I think that goes back to the family of importance. You kind of have to have a little bit of both. You have to have a little bit of architecture and a little bit of family to kind of elevate it. And it doesn't have enough of really either, in my opinion. And and Sonia, this goes back to, yes, it is somewhat subjective, but I do this for a living. I do look at a lot of different homes. I don't just look at this one, what's in Larkspur. I mean, I'm looking around the Bay Area. So maybe my perspective's a little bit bigger. But I have, been working in Larkspur now for a number of years and know fairly well what their styles are like there. And there are many, many nicer California bungalows and craftsman bungalows as well. But I think alluding to Rich, your point about the architect, well, of course, he's going to build a new house. He's still going to have to go through design review. He's still going to have to build something that is harmonious with the neighborhood. His neighbors have to approve it. He's going to have a public hearing on the design. So he's not going to be able to put maybe he is, I don't know, some starkly modern thing with a, shed roof on it with sheet metal siding. I don't know. I'm just saying, the new design will have to also be sympathetic to the neighborhood. Will have to be scaled to the neighbors. So they're not going to be able to do whatever they want. It's not the wild, wild west.
Jerry, this is Carol Goldberg. I think you've made a very good documented case for what you're saying. And I know where Sonia's coming from, because I think the concern is, you're probably right. It's not, if you look at a point system, historical. From what you've presented, I agree. But I guess the concern is to cavalierly say there's so many of these California bungalows, and if they all start disappearing, then we don't have what makes Larkspur special. And I guess that's kind of my challenge when we're looking at this, is if we say there's nothing special about the California bungalows and they're everywhere, then everyone can, and they're not listed, everyone's gonna, because that's the way of the world these days, take them down and build something else. Then we don't have the Larkspur.
Right, but we're not saying, but Carol, we're not saying that quite yet. This is not the last one. It's not by any means.
But I understand.
But I see the point. I see the point. You get to the last one.
Yeah, I think you've made your case, but to Sonia's point was, so when it becomes the last one, then we say it's historic. But is that the right approach, waiting till we have one last one? But I think you've made your point and I understand it. But on the other side, just from an integrity of the town, it's a concern.
Well, that might be another issue at some point. This is a sidebar, but that we could talk about at a board meeting and maybe have Jerry there to sort of talk philosophically about what is preservation and what does it mean with building pressure today. And this might not be the time or the project to address those issues, but you're right. Those are large issues that I think are going to be coming before us in the next year or so. So
I think it'd be a good idea.
I agree. Right. And as you were saying, Hillary, about the pressure that I can't remember the word that you used, but the cultural zeitgeist of what we see happening around us, and all of these modern farmhouses popping up everywhere and taking up so much space, or even what Kristen's planning report, her report earlier this evening, the SB9 to, that
increased
could mean
density.
2 units on a single family lot. Well, but historic homes and lots are excluded. Well, if we delist this as a historic resource and a new home is put up there, then we actually might be getting 2 homes or someday, and that changes the neighborhood too. So there are these sort of bigger issues that, we shouldn't funnel into one home. We have to look at what's in front of us today, but that do feed into the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just want to remind you that the majority of the homes in this neighborhood are not on the inventory. So the SB9 regulations will have an impact regardless. Just for clarity, there's probably 5 or 6 homes on this street. There are more on the cross streets and on Magnolia that are all part of technically Baltimore Park, but they don't relate to each other visually immediately. And I have been doing this since the early 2000s and did the original update and added all these homes. And it was an interesting experience going through the whole process all the way to the council. And the reason that buildings that are contributing to a neighborhood but not really meeting the point score are not listed was it was very politically unpopular to just try and designate every home with any charm as a historic resource and essentially provide some restriction on the property rights. And to some degree, some mild degree, it does, because we try to retain the character of that home and allow for improvements that still do not erase how it speaks to the neighborhood, and visually its original massing and form can still be seen. So the board at that time decided the C and D buildings, the contributing structure, should not in any way be added and protected. And so there are a lot of buildings up and down the street that are of the same quality as this structure, but are not on the inventory. I can't tell you exactly what the tipping point was for Dan to vote to raise the score on this, but not the others. It was a little bit of a rush at times. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Kristen, I would guess a little bit of that was the Hirely family was well respected in the community and well known among the people working on the original.
And they probably didn't
And
object
that
to
could
it
have-
being listed.
No,
That helped.
they might have liked it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing at that. But
Well, are we getting close to making a motion? And how would we phrase that? And, it may not be a unanimous vote, but I just want to take the temperature here and see if you all feel like your questions have been answered and your ideas have been expressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hillary, I would say, I think this is an example. This is an issue that probably needs a further airing, and I would like it to go to the city council. I would like it to be something which is an opportunity for us to discuss the very things that we're kind of struggling with right now. The point system says one thing, and yet there are other considerations, and I don't want us to say, go ahead, delist it. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say I'm struggling as well. And of course, we all bring, our own histories and studies into what we are considering here. And my own background is I did a master's in historical material culture and wrote my master's thesis on a house, a 19th century house that happened to be sort of left to its own devices, had only one owner, and was then ignored and neglected for 100 and some years. And, now it's a very valuable resource. Just the middle classness of it, the workman's horseness of it, very valuable. As a historic document for something that's not about the elite, that is not about the pristine. That's not to say that I'm not super thinking that I need, that we shouldn't delist it. But I, like Rich, I feel very torn about this decision. And after watching the Zoom recording of your last meeting that I couldn't attend, unfortunately, and James pointing out from his time on the board prior to, my coming on the board, of how much more often these are coming up, that we did just delist something that I think I'm coming back to Hillary's point of like, now that this is in the air, in the atmosphere of being asked again and again, whereas he said that didn't used to be the case. So we are the people that are holding dear these values and need to think about them very carefully.
Yeah.
I just want to caution you about holding this house responsible for an entire
Exactly.
neighborhood and community
Understood. Yeah,
integrity.
totally.
Yes.
We do have to honor.
Yeah, as the board, you need to focus solely on the criteria of this house and the point scoring, and determine if there are some issues here with the evaluation, perhaps where the scoring should be higher. If you're not inclined to delist it, you need to explain, based on the process that was adopted by the board in 2008 when we did this, why this building should have a higher score. Okay, because we need to focus solely on the structure itself and not the broader issue of
Right.
how the community character
Absolutely.
is going to change. Okay,
Well, I
Okay.
do, I agree. I think we have to honor the process and the system, and it's gone through one board meeting in October, and it's going through another one now, and we've had a lot of detailed discussion about the scoring and the points for this 20 Monte Vista. And I think it's important that we keep the integrity of this sort of semi-scientific method, as it were. I regret the idea of losing any house in the community, especially one that represents a long-term family. But I also have to respect the system that has been put in place since before my time on the board. So my feeling is I'm tending toward, accepting the fact that we're probably going to have to lose this resource. But it strengthens my resolve just this evening about going forward. Like, how do we approach our scoring? Maybe there's another category that we need to add to the evaluation. Tonight's not the time to decide that, in my mind. But I think there's going to be, like Heather Gardens is a neighborhood that comes to mind. It's working class, that there's always expansions going on there. So anyone else have comments?
Well,
Lelia, what do you think?
Hillary, I agree with you that I think we need, and this is one of the frustrating things with the COVID. But we really need among ourselves a workshop to go over this. We have lots of new members, and it would be worthwhile to have a special session on this kind of discussion, preserving what's special about Larkspur. But we can't really hold up this house.
No.
To do that, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid not. That's my opinion, but we can take a vote once we figure out a motion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hillary, and I think it's a bigger picture, and this house should be held to the standard that's currently the standard. But it seems like a broader, more important question as a community going forward, whether something should change on how we look at it. Because it'll break my heart to lose it, but I certainly would delist it based on everything that's been presented tonight.
Okay.
And I agree. We've talked about this over several months. So yeah, it makes sense, Hillary. I agree with you.
Rich, did you want to say anything else, or should we start crafting the language for a motion?
Oh, we need a motion.
Well, I think we're coming to that point. That's my sense. Kristen, what do you think?
unless there is something further Rich would like to discuss.
I may stop the video just to go turn the oven off. I'm sorry.
Go
Like
ahead.
your house burning down.
Yeah, right.
Oh, hi, Jerry. Now I can see you.
I can see everybody.
Oh, if you make your screen bigger for there's a little chiclet, the icon in the corner, you can expand how many screens you see. And then just drag it down and make it bigger.
Say chiclet, I'm like up in the right
It's
corner.
like a little box of like a one of those game things that you twist and try to.
Oh, like a Rubrik's?
Yeah, it
Rubrik's
looks like a
cube?
little Rubrik's, the one side of it.
I don't have one of those on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Is this the one in the upper right?
Yeah.
Right, but what it's giving me is just side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery, or standard. Let me try standard.
Try the two bars then.
No, that didn't work.
So
Go for gallery, Jerry.
So then
Yeah,
drag,
the gallery.
That's what I was, but it was
drag your screen down and make it bigger. The screen with the pictures of our faces.
okay, all right. Oh, I can see. Oh, now I see. I can make. Oh,
There
it's
we
just like Windows.
So
I'm also not
Hillary,
losing.
do we just need someone move to delist the house? Is that what you're looking to?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll wait till Lilia gets back.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, you're
She's
back. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to propose, and Kristen, you can help me with the language. I think it's pretty simple that we just have a motion to propose delisting 20 Monte Vista.
Okay.
Is that?
I'll second it.
I'd suggest you'd say based on the evaluations provided by the applicant and our historic architect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we
What
need
she
to add
said.
that.
Just say so amended.
So amended. Do we have a second? Rich, did I hear you say?
Yes, I second.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor?
I'm gonna do a roll call.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Board Member Golding.
Goldberg.
I'm sorry, Goldberg.
I agree. Yes.
Board Member Gallant.
Yes.
Board Member Storick.
No.
Board Member Langto.
Yes.
Board Member Culhane.
Yes.
So let the record show that that was 4 in favor and 1 against, being Board Member Storick.
Okay.
And that concludes our time on this.
Okay.
Kristen, is this your last meeting with us?
Oh, no.
Oh, good.
I think you'll see me through the fiscal year. I'm going to keep working until we get our Track It system online.
Oh, good to hear. Okay.
Yeah. Phew.
Yeah.
And is it possible to have another Zoom call with just the preservation board?
Well, any meeting that there are 5 board members at, it gets a little tricky what you can do without inviting the public. But I can.
We could invite the public. I mean, that would be all right, I think.
We could invite the public and announce that you're going to have a discussion on a certain matter, and they can listen in.
Yeah. And
We're trying to discuss a possibility of setting future policy or recommendations to the council. I think we need to make it public.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And do we have money in our budget to pay for Jerry's time for a meeting like this?
Possibly. Depends on how much time we take.
Okay.
We have a very tiny budget these days for matters that are not related directly to a application.
This is how much down and how much a month?
I think we have about 3,000 for the whole year.
Okay.
Wow.
And I've
Okay.
already had to pay a few little bills for some assistance on her part.
Okay.
I was going to suggest if you guys do hold a larger meeting to discuss some of these larger issues, because I think it's really important, I would really urge you to get, to have Peterson's, the real thick book where he goes through every section, architectural style, family importance, integrity, and rates and tells you how to point it, because you haven't seen that. You've only seen these brief surveys, which are very abbreviated, but there's a lot of thought. So it doesn't sound so scientific maybe at this level on a 2-page survey, but it really is. And I'd love to kind of go through that with you. I don't want to change anything or, I want you guys to get to your own policy, but I think this information is really critical, and it's just wonderful to have as a resource.
Great.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like we should throw it out. It just sounds like maybe.
Oh, no. I think you should just understand it, because I think if you go through it, you might just re-adopt it because it's so good and it's so thorough. And Lelia, you might have gone through this at one point, his, very detailed point scoring system for each section.
Did he write that himself?
Well, no, it's all based on the, what do you call it? The National Park Standards. So they have there's the 10 rehabilitation standards, but there's a whole bunch of bulletins and descriptions of integrity and how you get to certain things. And it's just kind of a point summation of it. And I would venture to say that probably other, and maybe even San Francisco has something similar, and it's other communities that are very preservation oriented. So I think it's based on the national standards, but it's adopted for Larkspur, but it makes it easy to follow in terms of the point system.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say, I've spent most of my life restoring commercial historic buildings, and it is Larkspur has the most detailed, thorough, comprehensive system of evaluation I've ever seen in any city or town.
Well, I think San Francisco might be comparable, Rich. I don't know. Have you worked over there?
Yeah, but it lacks still some of the details that Dan put into this system.
Yeah, no, it might. I'm not that familiar with it either, but
Where do we get a copy of the full Dan?
I'm going to have to, I got mine from Kristen, so it might be somewhere in some, I don't know if it's in a computer even, but.
Did you look in your binders that I give you in your first given?
Yeah, I can look. I still have my binder.
I have mine too.
Take a look in there. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I copied those things.
Yeah, because
If
I know there's
you
the
don't
Sequest
have it,
stuff.
I will copy them for you because I have all the original documents that he wrote.
It is in there, yes.
Yeah, 'cause I thought so. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I just like to add, I was with great reluctance that I vote to have this house delisted. Because I too share everyone else's feelings about wanting to keep that feeling of Larkspur.
Yeah.
So
This was a hard one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we'll at our next meeting, we'll have it. How can we set this up, Kristen?
Well, I will definitely put it on a future agenda, but our next meeting potentially could have 2 public hearing items. So I don't think that would be the appropriate time for it. We'll have to delay that discussion to another date, if you don't mind. And
Well, could we have a special meeting just for that, a workshop?
Yeah, I mean, we're scheduling our meetings as needed at this point anyway. We went to a quarterly schedule, but in order to accommodate public hearing items, we've not really just stuck to a straight quarterly meeting schedule.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna stop us from having a meeting. If you'd like to have one, we'll schedule it and set it up.
Hillary, you can just call for a meeting, huh?
I can?
Yes,
Sure.
you're the chair.
Oh. Well, it's like
Special
book club.
meeting.
Okay. How's March for everybody? So, but getting back, you said there's 2 more public hearing items.
That I think I'll be trying to bring to you at a upcoming meeting. Well, one for sure. We have a remodel of a property on Murray Lane, so I believe that should be heard as soon as possible so we can start that process working forward.
Okay.
The other one, I'm not sure if it's really ready to go before you, so I'm not going to mention anything more about it. But,
We should probably wait until we do have both of them, huh?
I would put them on separate agendas, Kristen.
I will, because I don't know how long it'll be before the second application is really going to be ready to move forward.
Okay.
And it's not really appropriate to hold up one indefinitely. I mean, there are permit streamlining act processes that I have to respect. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Okay.
Well, maybe we could have I don't even know what you'd call it, sort of our philosophical
I thought
meeting.
workshop was a good.
Well, I think,
word for it.
workshop seems to work.
Okay.
And this other, I mean, the city council, I used to have workshops, it's not an uncommon phenomenon in the city.
Yeah,
Right.
you guys had a workshop with
Pre-pandemic,
them a few
anyway.
years ago.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I would add is that what Kristen was mentioning at the beginning of the meeting, I mean, I've been following, I haven't paid attention to the last 2 city council meetings having to do with City Hall. But that's going to be a big issue coming before us at some point. So that might be something we could fold into the workshop.
Kristen, where is the fire station in all of this?
I don't think she heard.
I'm thinking, you're talking about the fire station immediately adjacent to City Hall?
Yep.
At this point, they have explored the possibility of shutting that particular use down in that building and repurposing it. But it is not in any manner decided yet. They could combine these services that we provide here in the downtown with the building over in Corte Madera. And it would create more efficiencies, but I think there's some concern about doing so amongst members of the public and council. So there's just no forward. I don't believe there's any significant decision made on that yet.
We need to approve the minutes.
Let's see, wait, are there any reports? Any other board member reports? And also, Kristen, you have election of officers. I thought we had just done that.
We had to re-elect because we lost a board member. But now it's the beginning of the year and you need to re-elect your chair and vice chair one more time just to make it for another year.
Oh.
Well, can I move that we keep the existing chair and vice chair for
I
another?
second that.
I mean, I am happy to share the position if anybody wants to step in.
Thank you.
That's what your vice chair does.
Rich?
I agree. I second. If it hasn't been seconded, I would second that motion.
Okay, I mean, I'll stay. We'll stay. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was, I'm sorry, that was moved by Carol, correct?
No, by me, by Lilia.
Oh, sorry, Lilia made the motion. No.
Rich seconded it.
Okay. Okey doke.
Okay.
So now we're getting to the meeting date. I need to have you all check your calendars, please, and give me some future potential meeting dates, say in early, mid-February.
Can we do that now while we're all together?
I'm happy to do that now.
Yeah.
So you're
The
talking
date that
about,
gives me time to prepare a staff report and do public noticing.
Can you suggest a date, Kristen?
Well, the next Thursdays in February, today is the 13th, are the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. Those are Thursdays, which is your traditional meeting night.
So the 24th is President's Week because the 21st is President's Day, and I'm pretty sure that's the school holiday that week.
right. So
17th is good for me.
the 10th or the 17th are fine for me.
Me too.
17th does not work for me. I'll be on a plane. But the 3rd or 10th would work for me.
So
And
we've got 3 for the 10th, then that's Carol, Hillary.
Yes, the 10th.
And
10th is good for
Yeah.
me too.
Okay,
10th is a 10th.
All right.
So
Right.
the Thursdays for me are I have my daughter has piano lesson. I had to pick up at 6:30. Today my husband was home and did it, but that's like not a guarantee. So if we do a Thursday that goes from that 6 to 7 time period, then I might have to do part of it from the car. I mean, I don't know, like
Yeah.
that's just
we can
Well-
start it at 7, which is the traditional meeting time,
Yeah.
that would,
or we
Yeah,
can
that's
go as
fine.
early as 5 PM.
I could do
I'm here.
5 or I can do 7.
I go for 5.
works for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
I can do it.
so the 10th at 5 PM. And we will have a public hearing item, and that's only one item, so maybe we could schedule that discussion as well.
Okay,
Get
perfect.
started on the discussion.
Yeah,
So starting at 5 o'clock.
yes.
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
On the
you
10th.
all.
And you will send us a link, Kristen.
Yes, I will when I get it scheduled. I did
Okay.
send you the link, Rich, by the way. I sent everybody. You were included as a panelist.
I know you did. When I started to look for it, though, I missed it. So I finally, thank you.
You're welcome. You know what? I'll try to, if I have time, I will resend that link when it gets closer to the meeting date, just to help you all from losing it in your emails.
All right.
Okay,
All
Great.
right.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
do we need to adjourn?
We need to approve the minutes.
Oh, approve the minutes. I wasn't there, so I can't approve them.
Okay. I looked them over. They seemed fine to me.
okay.
Rich, did you have
I move
anything?
we approve them as they are.
And I
Yeah.
second that.
Okay.
Great. Did you notice we have a new minutes clerk?
You mentioned that, but I don't know.
Tony
Who?
DeFrancis.
Oh,
She
yeah, I saw the name.
Does the planning commission minutes. And I was allowed to finally hire a minutes clerk and not do them myself. So
That's great. Very good.
Maybe if they let you hire more and more people, you'll stay on.
yeah, that would certainly work in the right direction.
I must go. Jerry, good to see you. And I hope to see everybody on the 10th, huh?
Great.
Yes.
I think we're ready to adjourn.
All right.
Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn,
Okay.
second.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
All
All right.
Good night, everybody. Thank you,
Good
Jerry.
night, everybody.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Jerry,
Thank
nice
you,
to see
Jerry.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Sonia.
Bye.
All right.